In 1813, a Swiss researcher stumbled across a colossal stone face protruding from the Egyptian desert. It was the great temple of Abu Simbel, but centuries of shifting sand swallowed the structure. These statues were commissioned by Pharaoh Ramesses II to broadcast a specific message. His empire was indestructible, and his divine supremacy would last for eternity. But the historical record tells a different story. Within a few generations of these monuments being carved, the Egyptian state was bankrupt. Workers were revolting in the streets, and pharaohs were assassinated in their own beds. How did the greatest superpower of the late Bronze Age rot from the inside out? To understand the collapse, we must look past the stone and ask if its famous monuments were a facade masking that decline. If you read the official inscriptions carved into the walls at Abu Simbel, the Battle of Kadesh was a glorious triumph, where a divine Ramesses II annihilated his enemies. The reality was a tactical failure. The Egyptian army was ambushed and nearly destroyed, ending the battle in a stalemate that forced Ramesses to strike a compromise with the rival Hittite empire. This clay tablet is the physical proof of that compromise. It contains the terms of the Silver Treaty, the world's first recorded mutual non-aggression pact. This peace allowed Ramesses II to redirect the state's resources into the most ambitious building program in history. For the Ramesside sideline, stone was the primary medium of legitimacy. By the time his successors faced the collapse of international trade and the loss of foreign tax revenue, they were trapped, trying to fund an architectural precedent they no longer had the gold to support. Jump forward a century to the reign of Ramesses III. At the Medinet Habu temple complex, the design philosophy shifted. This fortified complex features 18-meter-high walls and a Syrian-style fortress gate. The empire was under coordinated siege. Migrating Sea Peoples and Libyan tribes were pushing into Egyptian territory, forcing the state into a constant defensive war. Medinet Habu proved the Ramesside state was no longer projecting power outward. The pharaoh was barricading himself inside his own borders to survive the late Bronze Age collapse. Defensive warfare and the cost of temple construction eventually broke the Egyptian command economy. The royal granaries that fed the state were drained. The breaking point hit in 1158 BC at Deir el-Medina. The elite artisans responsible for carving the royal tombs stopped receiving their food rations. Waiting nearly 3 weeks for grain, the artisans laid down their tools, marched to the temples, and refused to work. It is the first recorded labor strike in human history. That strike shattered the illusion of a divine administration. It proved that the state was corrupt and unable to meet its basic obligations. The final blow to the pharaoh's status came from inside his own palace. As Ramesses III aged, a secondary wife named Queen Tia orchestrated an assassination plot from deep within the royal harem. For centuries, it was assumed the pharaoh died of natural causes, but modern forensics on the remains of Ramesses III tell a violent story. CT scans revealed a sharp cut across his neck down to the bone, meaning the assassination was successful. The political coup failed. Queen Tia's son did not take the throne, and the conspirators were tried and executed. Their identities were erased from history using names of infamy. While the coup failed, the ideological damage was absolute. The murder of a living god king in his own bedchamber proved that the pharaoh was mortal and unprotected. With the central government bankrupt and the authority of the pharaoh shattered, power flowed to the only institutions left with resources, the regional temples. By Ramesses XI, the balance of power shifted. The High Priests of Amun held 66% of Egypt's land and 90% of its shipping fleet. This economic dominance became propaganda, with temple reliefs showing high priests at the same physical scale as the pharaoh. In 1070 BC, the new kingdom fractured. The empire split in half, shared between theocratic priests in the south and a secular dynasty in the north. The Ramesside Empire proves that monumental architecture is often camouflage for state weakness. Carving a face into a mountain cannot save an empire that is unable to feed its workers, pay its military, or trust its own inner circle.